All right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it is for you. I'm Paul Wessel, and welcome to this introduction to the UNAVCO short course for GMT for geodesy, which will happen in a few weeks. But we like to have this little introduction to sort of go over some aspects of how we can actually run this course and get you all prepared so that we have 2 smooth days when we actually do the workshop itself in July 20th and 21st. Oops. So, all right. So we have 5 core developers that are going to be running the workshop. Apart from myself, there'll be Joachim Luis is on the call. I saw Leonardo Ueda, Dong Tian, and Megan Jones also on the call. So those are sort of the day-to-day folks who are involved in development of GMT and the wrappers around GMT. We also have the fortune of having one of the GMT star developers, Eric Su, who's going to help with some aspects of GPS vector plotting in GMT. And then we have a couple of GMT users from around the world who are going to help us in the breakout rooms as we start working on various examples and projects. Oops, it's a little slow here advancing. Okay, so just remind you, you're going to be participating in a UNAVCO workshop, and you are obliged to follow the code of conduct. The link is here that spells out, what's expected. There's nothing unusual there except being a nice person and be nice and friendly to everybody else to participate. So make sure you touch on that webpage and realize that, this is a community activity, and we should all be friendly and supportive of each other. All right, it's very strange. All right, so today's agenda is mostly me just talking, and we'll kind of keep it to half an hour-ish, I think, but it's just talking about what we're going to be doing in the weeks ahead. So this is also being recorded for those who are missing it or want to revisit this session. I'm going to do this twice. So it's 10 a.m. in the morning in Hawaii right now. And in 12 hours, I'll do this again, and it'll be 10 a.m. somewhere else. They won't be in Hawaii. So people have all gotten the invitations to both of these Zooms. Nothing on your hand will happen today. There won't be any installation of GMT or exercise or any of that sort of thing. This is just getting ready to do it. As we go through this, if you have any questions, you can please use the chat tool, and Megan or Joachim will try to answer as best they can. There's just too many to have a discussion about this. But hopefully by the time I'm done, it is all crystal clear, and you will get follow-up email from us about what the next steps will be. All right, so this session here is in the morning for me. That means that all the participants as far west as New Zealand and all the way into Western Europe somewhere will have daylight today. So and most of the instructors will be seeing daylight as well. So we hope there's a lot of people here who will be easily accessible during the actual workshop, which will be daylight time for most people in the Western Hemisphere. It will be awkward. We can't possibly offer it 24 hours. This is why we're recording it. But we hope people who want to learn GMT for geodesy can stay up a little bit late if they are more in the eastern part of the world. So later tonight, let's see if this will advance. Oh, sorry for the delay, waiting, and then it advances after I click the second time, right? All right, so second session tonight, 12 hours from now, we'll prioritize folks who are in sort of Eastern Europe and in Asia. It will be daytime. It will be 10 p.m. my time, and we'll go over the same steps. So if you're here, you don't really need to be there tonight. Nothing new will happen. All right, so some specifics about the GMT version we're going to use and how we're going to do installations. So we're going to use GMT 6.2 for this workshops. So you should all make sure you have that installed, following the instructions. We're going to use GMT modern mode. So if you have a prior life using GMT from before modern mode, GMT classic mode, you won't be able to do that in this workshop. We're going to use modern mode for all kinds of reasons. GMT 6.2 came out on June 5, so it's a relatively recent release. It still has bugs, and we'll hope to work around anything like that in this workshop. We expect to do another release in the early fall. Now we're going to give you very detailed instructions on how you're going to install 6.2 on your computer, because people have different computers and operating systems. And I will send those by email, but I also talk about it today, where you get that information. But you will get written email about what you're supposed to do. And in about a week's time, we're going to have 2 optional sessions like this to help anyone who has had trouble installing. All right, so on Monday and it can't be Monday 6th and Monday 7th. That's a typo. Monday, July 6th and Tuesday, July 7th, at the different times there will be another Zoom opportunity if you have trouble. Now, from past experience, installing will be smooth sailing for 95% of you. All right, so if you pass the installation, don't show up for this session, right? Just leave that for the people who truly are struggling and need some help. So we have a small session. We will share this specific homework for you to complete. And the purpose of the homework is to basically show us that your installation is fully complete with 6.2. So we don't have time to do installation help and stuff like that during the workshop. We used to do it back when we had physical workshops, when we have a smaller number of people, but with a couple hundred people, we can't really do it. So this is all on you to get wrapped up before we move to the actual workshop. All right, did we miss one here? No, yes. There we go. Okay. So GMT is all about scripting, but there's many ways to script GMT. In this workshop, we're going to use the Bash shell scripting language. So if you have a long experience with other shells like C shell, then you'll just have to improvise a little bit for this. We're not going to cover any other shells but the Bash shell. But we're going to keep shell-specific commands to minimum. This is not much, we're not going to do a lot of programming in the shell. We're just going to use the shell for basic scripting and let GMT do the work. So it shouldn't be, much change for you if you're not familiar with Bash. We're going to basically follow this recipe of writing short shell scripts in an editor. And we're going to then make the scripts executable. And then we're going to run them from the terminal. And it should be pretty straightforward. And this is how most people do GMT scripting and execution. The data files that we may be using will all be accessed as remote files. So what that means is that you will see a specific syntax of how we list file names when we use them as input to commands. And they will be automatically achieved over the internet. It will be downloaded for you as you need them. Because some people have limited bandwidth, we will also give you instructions on how you can pre-download some of these files before the course, so that you don't get stuck waiting for a very slow download while we're moving ahead with the scripts. So this will be explained later. You'll need some general tools other than GMT installation. You need to be able to open a terminal and run Bash. And again, this is going to be explained in the installation instructions. For Unix and Mac, you will have this already. For Windows, you will have to install something. You need a text editor with which to edit the scripts. All the instructors are going to be using Visual Studio Code, which is available on all operating systems and is free. So we recommend that, because if you already have experience with some other editor, you're fine. You can do that. You're on your own in terms of using your editor. We will just focus on Visual Studio Code for this workshop. And of course, you need a web browser. We'll set up some bookmarks so that you can quickly access the documentation and also the shortcut is Google Docs folder, and we'll see the GitHub repo for this workshop. All right, here's the preliminary short course outline. It's not quite preliminary, although it's underlined there. It's sort of follow the recipe from last year. So there's 2 days. Please mute whoever is driving. That's dangerous. So we have 2 days. You can see the sections here. There are focused on different topics. We have a lot of breaks. We have a long break in the middle. So, if you have to have some breakfast, lunch, or dinner, depending on where you live, there should be time enough for you to do that without missing anything of the sections. So each of the sections here that you see, apart from the welcome, which is sort of just starting the day, we'll do a basic little lecture. We'll talk about this a little bit more, but basically a little lecture, what the next section is about and what we're going to do. And then we are going to set up a project to work on, and then you break into smaller groups to actually try to solve the puzzle. And in the breakout rooms, you will have some more help. So this applies to the tier 1 group who will be given a Zoom link to the workshop. So if you add all these minutes up, you come to about 5 hours total, including the breaks. So it should be manageable for everybody, and hopefully folks who are far east can manage this as well. And not on the program here, but we hope to, on day 2 there, to do a little demonstration on some of the external wrappers. So how do you use GMT from Python? How do you use it from Julia? And how do you use it from MATLAB? But for the functioning of this workshop, we're going to stick to using it from the command line bash. All right, so I sort of said this. So this applies mostly to tier 1 folks, but tier 2 are the ones who have access to this workshop through a live feed. So they won't be able to go into the breakout rooms, but they will see everything we present as lectures and demos, right? So we'll try to minimize the lecturing. In fact, right now I'm lecturing. We'll try to minimize that during the workshop and optimize, how much time you have to actually do GMT on your own computers and can interface with us through the breakout rooms. So for each session, we're going to do a little background. We have to say something and do a little overview. And then we go through together with you some simple examples and demonstrations of, what is the GMT usage for this particular type of plot or analysis. And then we talk about something we want to achieve. Maybe it's a publication illustration or a particular formatting of a data set. And we'll talk about how do you get there. And then we let you guys loose on your own based on what you've seen in the demonstrations and the simple examples to put together a script that achieves the desired illustration. So that's the hands-on part. And during that project time, you'll be split into several smaller groups, the breakout rooms, where there's a little easier to get help from one of the instructors or one of the helpers. You can also ask each other in there. It's a smaller group. And if there's some common problems that arise, then the instructor for that session will bring it up and address it to all the breakout rooms as we come back. So that worked pretty well last year, and we hope this will work well this year. The tier 1 people also have, and we'll soon get a Slack workspace invite where you can post questions. All right, if you're not familiar with GMT yet, you should be familiarize yourself with the main webpage, www.genericmappingtools.org. It looks something like this, and we will be using some of the resources there. So up on the top bar there, you'll see there's a download link. This is where you go when you want to get the installers for GMT. Again, you will get more specific information that will tell you what to do with the installers and so on, but this is where everything related to GMT lives. Download link for all the operating systems. You'll see the documentation tab up there as well. especially when you're new to GMT, and even if you've done it for years and years, you do need to consult the documentation on the modules from time to time. There's some lengthy sections called the cookbook that sort of talks about the philosophy of GMT and how things work and how the sort of the common items in GMT were set up and how they're expected to be provided, in addition to a very specific technical documentation for each of the modules, right? So you'll need to consult some of those module documentation for sure. So having bookmarked this site is very helpful. You can quickly go to the documentation. There's a user forum. So if you click on the forum link, you'll be taken to the forum for GMT. We won't be using the forum for the workshop, but once the workshop is over and you have issues related to GMT, let's say you want to achieve a particular plot and you're not sure how to do it, or you have this data set, how can I use this in GMT? Pretty much anything related to GMT usage, you can post a question there. So you have to register to be able to post there, and we recommend that you all do this. And as you become very good at GMT after this workshop, you can also help by answering questions from newbies there. So it's a community, right? We all are together in this community, and we need everybody to help a little bit. And that's an opportunity for you to pay back, if you will. You'll see the GitHub tab on the top there. That takes you to the GMT GitHub webpage, where all the source code and all the documentation code and the website and a wide range of other repos related to GMT, such as the Python and Julia and MATLAB wrappers, various data sets that underpin GMT, and also these UNAVCO workshops. So if you go there, you will actually find a 2021 UNAVCO course, which will have the information that you need to do the installation and do the homework one. Again, I'm gonna send this in email form so it's crystal clear to everybody. There's also a YouTube link. So for animations made with GMT, they're kind of too big to put up on our webpage. So we put them up on YouTube with links from this site. And we will take you through what it takes to make a simple animation in GMT on day 2. And because it takes a little time to render all these images to make a movie, it'll be very simple stuff. But you can look at the YouTube channel for more elaborate things that are all within the grasp of all. You guys can make these kinds of movies after a short time using GMT. All right. So things for you to consider. I mean, this is your responsibility. You have to make sure that your GMT 6.2 installation is complete before the short course starts. And the way you'll do that is to read the email that will come from us probably tomorrow, follow the instructions of getting to the GitHub repo for the course and clone that, then follow the install instructions for you, and then run homework 1 instructions to see if you can actually produce the results that the website will say what it should look like. Right. So once you complete homework 1, you know that your GMT installation is up to speed and ready to rock and roll in later July. If you have trouble between doing this and the workshop, there will be these cleanup sessions for installation that you can help address that. Sometimes life changes, turns you a little turn here, and if you for some reason are not able to participate in the workshop on July 21st, especially if you're in tier 1, please let us know so that we can open up your slot to someone else. All right. Just send me an email and we'll be fine. As I mentioned, please consider registering for the GMT forum for any questions you may have after the workshop, right? It's a good community, and you can learn a lot from seeing what people post at the GMT forum. And also, please consider registering actually at the GMT GitHub site, because what will happen typically is that you may actually find a problem in GMT. It turns out that GMT does have some bugs. We keep finding them and fixing them, but there are always new ones. There's probably an endless thing with all software. So if you find a bug, it's best if you report it on the GitHub site and make an issue of it so that we can address it. And finally, I think tomorrow the Slack invitations will go out to the tier 1 group. Make sure you accepted it so that you're ready to use Slack during the workshop. That's where you will be posting questions, and eventually that's where you're going to post your final projects for those of you who are registering for the class. All right, so this was pretty quick. Stay tuned for more info by email. Next week, we're going to run these 2 GMT installation sessions. I don't expect many people to show up, only a few usually, but we'll do it in case there are some troubles with installations. So most of the time, the most difficult part is for Unix people or Linux people, since GMT 6.2 may not be in your standard in distribution manager. But it's not too hard to install this thing through Conda. So we're going to probably focus on that. So that's really all I had. I hope people gotten some idea what this workshop will look like. We're excited to give it to you. It's usually a fun time for all of us to go through these simple things in GMT together and think of better ways to explain things that at times can be a little bit complicated. So if you're starting with GMT, there is usually a learning curve to get used to how we do the syntax on the command line. But we'll sort of ease you into it with very simple examples and sort of gradually build up. And I think many of you are going on to take the GMT SAR workshop, which will assume that you know a little bit GMT already. So this is a good prep for that workshop as well. So with that, I'm gonna stop my share. So I get back to where we are. Let's see, we had 55 participants. That's pretty good for this morning or evening, depending where you are. And I see there's been a lot of chat activity. I'm going to try that. I see Megan is answering them. But basically, when should you install 6.2? Well, you should do it between now and a week from now if you need help with it. But other than that, you just need to install it before July 20th, right? So you have some time. If for whatever reason you are using GMT, some other version, and you don't want to give that up, you'll have to install both, right? So if you're in that boat, you may need to come to that installation section next week for help. The critical word there is GMT switch, which is a utility script that allows you to have more than one GMT version on your computer and switch between them. But we'll strongly recommend that everybody just get with the program and install 6.2. 6.2 is compatible with prior versions all the way back to 4. So it should all run. We have stated that GMT 6 should be compatible with GMT 4 scripts. So if you have old scripts that you need to be running and they fail, we want to hear about that. That's a separate thing from the workshop, but we have stated that it should be compatible with GMT 4. All right, so let's see, anything else here? Should address. Yeah, you know, the hassle or the amount of work involved to install the new GMT version is pretty low. Right? It's the same steps you took for installing 6.1 or something. Pretty much, if you're doing it from the installers, then it's pretty simple. You really should do this. Not only is 6.2 having more features than 6.1, it also fixed a bunch of bugs in 6.1, right? So we don't really want to go into the workshop and having people get a bad experience because the particular example we do doesn't work for them because they're running 6.1. So for these kinds of software, it's almost always best to update to the very latest. You know, and most of us don't use 6.2. We build directly from GitHub master because it changes every day. You know, a bug is fixed. You know, why would I run the old version that was published 2 weeks ago when the bug that it has been fixed already? So I build it from source. It's much simpler. But for this workshop, we will sort of draw the line at 6.2. make sure you are updated to that level, and communicate with us next week if there's any issues with that. Installing GMT under Mac OS, well, you click on the download link to get the bundle. You click the bundle and you click install, and it'll take tenths of a second maybe, depending on how quick things are. That's installing from the bundle. All right. Anything else, Megan, that I need to address from the questions?
No, I think we should have them all answered. And if not, people can get in touch through the instructions that are in that repository. And if you didn't catch the link to that, then you'll receive it in the email as well. Yeah,
we'll send that email out after we do the second introduction tonight. And then tomorrow you'll get an email, all of you, about the next steps. And so, please do the installation as soon as you can, in case you do run into any troubles. But I don't expect too much problems. The installation of GMT has gotten simpler and simpler over time, basically, especially with installers. So it should be fine. Do you need to uninstall? Depends on how you install it, I suppose. If you you can uninstall. If you install it from an installer, there's usually an uninstall option, at least on Windows. On the Mac, there is no install. Uninstall it, you just drag the bundle to the trash, and then you reinstall. So it shouldn't be any problems. It will overwrite things. Okay, I think we will keep it short and sweet. People have lives to live, and it's sunny at some parts of the world, and we have other things to do. So nice meeting you guys for the first time. We'll see you again, at least on the 20th and 21st. We'll probably get to know each other a little bit better in the breakout rooms. But it's fun to see so many people showing up, and so many people are registered for the sessions. I think something like 70 in the 70s on tier 1 and over 100 in tier 2. So it'll be a busy session. They'll all be recorded, and Melissa will put them all up on the UNAPCO sites and after the fact, and we will update the links to that. So you can always, if you miss a session, you can always go back and watch the recording of it and follow along. And of course, all the materials that we use, the scripts and the data sets, it will be on our GitHub site. So you can always use this to introduce some of your colleagues to GMT later that missed the workshop. Okay, with that, I will say have a nice morning, afternoon, evening, night, and we'll see you next time. Aloha.